Let's take a look at your D60 information screen. To get to it, hit the info button a couple times till you get this on the screen. We'll start in the top left corner. It says TV, that's our time value or shutter speed. That's the dial setting on the top of the camera. And if I were to change the dial to like AV, which is your aperture setting, you can then dial that in, aperture priority. It doesn't need to know the shutter, or you don't need to know the shutter because it compensates for it. If you were in a manual, you could adjust both, and both of them are up there. And if you're in P or program, by having neither up there, that's sort of telling you that don't worry about it, we'll figure out the combination of both. So we'll keep it in TV or time value for now. And by the way, if you wanted to adjust time value, you hit the Q button, use your four-way controller on the back to get to it, and then you can change, in this case, your shutter speed. So moving on to the right, you have your ISO here, plus the D plus, the D plus is the highlight tone priority. So that works with your contrast and your highlights, and we'll be going into that on the DVDs a little later. And then we're going to move to the next row here. So I'm going to hit the Q button to move to the next row, and I'm going to just show you a couple things here. What we're doing now, what I'm starting to do now, is use the circular button on the back, the rotating dial, to go back and forth. And this is your exposure compensation. So if I'm filming a musician in a tent and everything's white in the background, the exposure may go a little darker. So you want to basically tell the camera, hey, I want it a little more than one stop up. I want you to overexpose. Or suppose you're in a situation where you don't know how the shots are going to come out, overexposed or underexposed. You're going to use the front dial, and then you could have the auto exposure bracketing, which means you take 3 pictures, and one's going to be, in this case, 1 stop under regular and 1 stop over, allowing you to pick the shot you want afterwards. That's great for landscapes, especially when nothing's changing. Once again, I hit my Q button. I go to my drive modes. This is low-speed continuous drive modes. It's one after the other, boom, 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 great for sports. And then there's also high-speed continuous, and I can use either the dial on the front or the back of the camera to change this. And then single shooting is what you normally shoot with, or you have your timers, a 2-second timer if you don't want to really touch the camera when things are going off, or the 10-second timer if you want to take group pictures. This next one shows that the electronic level control is on, and the next one shows that our exposure compensation for flash is at 0. Once again, we can use the dial on the back and the front to go plus or minus, give you a little more or a little less flash if you need it. The next one is your picture styles, and we have some that are already built in from portrait, landscape, or you could do custom picture styles, creations that you may want to create, so when you're out in the field, you can call up that setting anytime. The next one is your white balance setting. We'll be going into that on the DVD. Oop, I skipped one. And this is your auto lighting optimizer, which automatically adjusts the brightness and contrast. That's a little different from the highlight tone priority, but you can't use them both at the same time, which means no matter how hard we tried, we cannot change that offsetting right now until we were able to shut off up here the highlight tone priority. So we'll go into that in depth. Don't panic on it, but you can only use one or the other. Right over here is our custom controls. If I were to hit the set button in the middle and the back, we're going to be going over how to change all these things. If you're a particular kind of photographer that's used to a certain button, maybe on an old camera that you had, well, you want to set it up the way you like it. You can do that. Moving on to our different autofocus modes. We'll be taking care of those and explaining those. And we'll be explaining the automatic selection, so you'll be able to choose the automatic focus points that you want. Now, you want to get your exposure right. And so your exposure metering here, you have partial, spot, center weighted, and the evaluative is pretty much the smartest generic all-around one that you want to leave your camera on, especially to start. Pretty much takes care of everything off the bat. Going over here, we're in RAW right now. It's 133 pictures. What if you're going to need more than that? Well, you can start getting more pictures by having settings like medium that are really going to look as good at 8 megapixels, but they're going to give you more pictures. And you see you can dial it all the way up. That's with the RAW, and then you could dial it up to get rid of the RAW and have 999 pictures. Now keep in mind that it's actually more than 199 pictures. That's how much the counter goes up to there. So there is the whole information screen on the back. We've briefly gone over all the different settings here to give you a head start. In the DVDs, we're going to be going over more in detail all these specifics, but this is just great to get you started and to make you an expert in no time.